Have you ever noticed how expensive loneliness has become? Not just emotionally, financially. You tell yourself you're ordering food because you're tired, buying something online because you've had a long week, paying for another subscription because you'll definitely use it this time. But if you look closely, many of those purchases have something in common. They're trying to solve a feeling. And that's the uncomfortable part, because loneliness isn't just an emotion anymore, it's become an economy. An invisible marketplace built around filling the spaces where connection used to exist. The strange thing is that most of us never notice it happening. We think we're making independent choices. But often, we're responding to a much deeper need that someone, somewhere, has already figured out how to monetize. Once you see it, it's difficult to unsee. For a long time, economists have treated loneliness as a social issue. Something unfortunate, but separate from money. Yet our spending habits tell a different story. Think about the average day. We wake up alone in an apartment that costs more than ever. We commute surrounded by strangers. We work through screens. We unwind with personalized entertainment designed specifically for one person. Individually, none of these things are inherently bad. Together, they create a world that's surprisingly easy to live in without needing anyone else. And that's a profound shift. Because humans didn't evolve around convenience. We evolved around dependence. For most of history, survival required other people. Families lived together. Neighbors relied on one another. Meals were shared because they had to be. Childcare, emotional support, practical help, these weren't services, they were relationships. Today, many of those functions can be purchased. Need food? It arrives at your door. Need entertainment? Endless options appear instantly. Need conversation? There's an app for that. Need someone to assemble your furniture, walk your dog, clean your house, or deliver your groceries? Someone is already waiting. Technology has made life remarkably efficient. But efficiency has a strange side effect. It quietly reduces the number of moments where human relationships naturally form. Not because people stopped caring. Because we stopped needing each other in the same ways. And markets are remarkably good at noticing what disappears. Every time community becomes less available, a product often appears to replace part of it. Not the whole thing. Just enough to make the absence feel manageable. That's what makes this economy so fascinating. It doesn't sell loneliness. It sells relief from loneliness. There's an important psychological concept called emotional substitution. When we can't satisfy one need directly, our brains often search for something adjacent. Not because it's the same. Because it's available. If you can't find connection, maybe you'll seek comfort. If you can't find belonging, maybe you'll seek status. If you can't find emotional security, maybe you'll seek control. That's why emotional spending often feels irrational only after the purchase. In the moment, it makes perfect sense. You've had a stressful week. You haven't talked to anyone who really understands you. The apartment feels unusually quiet. Buying something new creates anticipation. Ordering your favorite meal creates comfort. Streaming another episode creates company, even if nobody else is in the room. These aren't signs of weakness. They're examples of the brain solving the problem it can solve. The deeper need remains untouched, but the emotional pressure softens for a while. That's why loneliness can become expensive without ever appearing on a bank statement. No category says, compensating for emotional isolation. It hides inside shopping, subscriptions, food delivery, impulse purchases, even work itself. Some people don't spend because they're lonely. They work more because they're lonely. Work becomes predictable, measurable, rewarding. Unlike relationships, spreadsheets don't misunderstand you. Deadlines don't reject you. Promotions don't cancel plans at the last minute. The office starts feeling safer than home. Until one day you realize you've optimized your career while quietly neglecting the relationships that made success meaningful in the first place. That's a painful irony. Sometimes the pursuit of financial security slowly consumes the very experiences we hoped money would protect. And this isn't just about individuals, it's about incentives. Businesses aren't creating loneliness, but many businesses operate inside a society where loneliness is already increasing. Single-person households are becoming more common in many countries. Remote work has changed how often colleagues interact face-to-face. Social activities that once happened naturally now often require planning, scheduling, and sometimes paying. The economy adapts. It always does. If people eat together less often, restaurants develop delivery systems. If fewer people have time to help each other move, moving services expand. If fewer friendships survive busy schedules, entertainment becomes increasingly personalized. Markets don't ask whether something should exist. They respond to demand. That's their job. Which means an economy can grow around a problem without ever solving the problem itself. Imagine a city where everyone carries umbrellas because it rains constantly. Selling umbrellas is a perfectly reasonable business. But no umbrella company has an incentive to stop the rain. In many ways, loneliness works similarly. Entire industries help us cope with isolation. Very few can actually replace genuine human connection, and perhaps they shouldn't be expected to. Because that's not something products were ever designed to do. Here's where the conversation becomes more personal. Most of us have been taught to think about financial health in terms of income, savings, investments, and debt. All of those matter. But there's another form of wealth we rarely measure. Relational wealth. Not the number of contacts in your phone, the number of people you could genuinely call when life falls apart, the people who celebrate your successes without envy, who tell you difficult truths because they care, who make expensive problems feel smaller simply by showing up. Those relationships create a kind of financial resilience that never appears on a balance sheet. Sometimes they help directly. Often they help indirectly. Stress becomes easier to manage. Major decisions become less impulsive. Setbacks become less overwhelming. Even our spending changes. It's surprisingly difficult to shop your way out of an emotional hole when someone is sitting beside you helping you climb out instead. That doesn't mean friendships eliminate financial anxiety. They change how we carry it. And maybe that's one of the hidden costs of modern life. Not simply that everything costs more, but that we're increasingly expected to purchase solutions that communities once provided freely. Again, this isn't about nostalgia. The past wasn't perfect. Many people were excluded from those communities. Others felt trapped by them. Modern independence has brought extraordinary freedom. The challenge is remembering that independence and isolation aren't the same thing. One is empowering, the other is exhausting. So what do we actually do with this realization? Maybe the goal isn't to reject convenience. Convenience is valuable. The goal is becoming aware of what convenience cannot replace. Before making an emotional purchase, it can be worth asking a gentle question. What am I actually looking for right now? Sometimes the answer really is a new pair of shoes. Sometimes it's rest. Sometimes it's celebration. But occasionally, the answer is much quieter. Maybe you're looking for conversation. Maybe you're looking for reassurance. Maybe you're looking for someone who simply knows how your week has been. Awareness doesn't eliminate emotional spending. It makes it more honest. And honesty is often where healthier financial decisions begin. Because once we recognize which needs are emotional and which are material, we stop expecting money to solve problems it was never designed to solve. Perhaps that's the deeper lesson hidden beneath all of this. Money is incredibly good at creating comfort. It can buy time, safety, privacy, opportunity. But belonging has always followed different rules. It grows slowly, requires vulnerability, and refuses to be rushed. The hidden economy of loneliness reminds us of something surprisingly hopeful. If loneliness can quietly influence how we spend, then connection can quietly influence it too. Not through dramatic transformations. Through ordinary moments. A dinner that lasts longer than expected. A phone call you almost didn't make. A walk with someone who asks how you're really doing. Those moments don't show up in investment portfolios. But they often generate returns that compound for years. And maybe real wealth isn't just having enough money to live comfortably. Maybe it's building a life where money doesn't have to carry the weight of every unmet emotional need, because that's a burden no currency has ever been able to afford.